Hello, this is Pastor Green. Today we're doing another Bible study, Genesis chapter 37. As always, you can email me at godsohman@gmail.com. I'm getting a lot of people asking me if I could come to the church and speak or questions. If you'd like me to come to your church to speak, or if you have any questions for me, just email me at godsohman and just put in there. I'd like you to come to my church. Can we schedule a time? Questions, anything like that, and I'll try to help you. And also, you can also comment and leave a question there as well. Genesis 37, verse 1. And Jacob dwelled in the land wherein his father was a stranger in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought to his father an evil report. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that his father loved him and all of his brethren, they hated him, and they could not speak peacefully to him. And Joseph dreamt a dream, and he told his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we are binding sheep in the field, and my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and beheld, your sheaf stood round about, and made obstinance to my sheaf. And the brethren said unto him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamt yet another dream, and he told his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamt a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obstinance to me. He didn't mention his mother. Obviously she's dead, so he didn't mention her. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come bow down ourselves to thy earth? Remember, he didn't mention the mother, because his mother was already dead. And his brethren envied him, but his father observed him, saying, And his brother went and feed their flock at the Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed their flock in Shechem? Come, I will send thee to them. And he said unto him, Here I am. And he said unto him, Go, I pray thee, see where it be well with thy brethren, and with thy flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out to the Vale of Hebron, and came to Shechem. But you have to understand that from Hebron to Shechem is about 40 miles. So this guy sent in his 17-year-old son 40 miles to go check on his brothers. And a certain man found him and said, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, Where seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flock. And the man said, They are departed hence, for I heard them say, Let's go to Dothan. And Joseph went after them, after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. Now you have to understand, Dothan is actually another 10 to 12 miles away from Shechem. And it's kind of interesting that he ran into a random guy at a random place, some stranger he didn't even know. And the stranger came to him and said, Hey, where are you going? And he said, Well, I'm going to find my brothers. And he said, Oh yeah, I heard them. They said they're going to go to Dothan. Now, if he didn't run into this guy, he wouldn't know they're in Dothan. If this guy didn't overhear his brothers, he wouldn't have known they were in Dothan. So it seems like it's happenstance that Joseph ran on this man. So he had walked about 100 miles, and he's in mountainous terrain. You have to understand that going from Hebron up to Dothan is going to be all mountains. And when he saw them afar off, even before he came near to them, they conspired against him to slay him. And he said unto another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit. We will say some evil beast had devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dream. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and he said, Let us not kill him. Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into the pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, for he might rid him of their hands, and deliver him to the father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph would come to his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And he took to him, and he came to a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. And obviously, they're talking about a cistern, so there was an empty cistern there with no water in it. And they said, "Sit down and eat bread." And they lifted up their eyes, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead. Their camels bearing spicery and balms and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, Where is profit of this to slay our brother and conceal the blood? For the love of money is the root of all evil. That's in 1 Timothy 6:10. And notice other versions says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. That's the NIV. Or the love of money is the source of all kinds of evil. That's the Good News Bible. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. That's the New King James. But King James says the love of money is the root of all evil. Not kinds, not sorts. So, this one says a root, a source. 27. Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let us not hands be upon him, for he is our brother in our flesh. And his brothers were content. So they were originally gonna slay him. Well, they decided not to do that because Reuben said, "Don't do it." So then they said, "Well, let's go ahead and throw him into a pit." And by throwing him into a pit, he's gonna starve to death, and then he's gonna be slain that way. But it just so happened that he ran into a guy saying, "Hey, your brothers are over here." And it just so happened that there was a pit close by to stop him from killing him. And then it just so happened that they saw some Ishmaelites and they decided to sell them. Verse 28. Then there passed by some Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. So then, not only did they sell him for some money, but they sold him to Egypt. So now he's just so happened to go to Egypt. So now you have to understand, he was in Hebron, and he went up to Shechem to look for his brothers. And then from Shechem, he went to Dothan. And then from Dothan, he got sold to the Midianites, the Ishmaelites, and all the way over to Egypt. Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rent his clothes. And he returned to his brother and said, This child is not, and whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat of the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, This is what we found. Know not whether that be their son's coat or not. So they're basically saying they took his coat and they dipped it in blood. That way it would basically even intensify the story that he got attacked by animals. And they just randomly found it somewhere, and they don't really know if that's really his coat or not. So they gave it to the father so that he can tell if it's his coat or not. And he knew it, and he said, This is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without a doubt, rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes, and put a sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son for many days. You have to understand that Joseph was 17 when he was sold. He was 30 when he was freed from prison. That's 13 years. So he was in prison for 13 years. And there was 7 good years. So that's 20 years he was in prison. During the second of his 7 bad years, his brothers finally confessed the truth. They let their dad suffer for 22 years with this lie. Verse 35. And all the sons and his daughters rose up to comfort him, and he refused to be comforted. And he said, For I will go down to the grave with my son's mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him to Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and a captain of the guard. It's easy to see the trouble surrounding Joseph. He obediently walked for almost 100 miles in search of his brothers, and everything goes south. But in this story, just like in the challenges within our own lives, we need to put our eyes from the troubles all around us and see what God's amazing provisions. When the brothers are ready to slay him, there just happened to be a cistern available. And it just happens to be a dry cistern. So that means that he wouldn't drown in there. No bones were broken when they threw him into the cistern, and there was no poisonous creatures present. Within minutes or hours at most, a caravan just happens to be coming by. And it just happens to be heading to Egypt. And the proprietors have cash, not just goods to sell. And Joseph just happens to be sold to Potiphar instead of some other servants. Backing up, Joseph just happens to find someone who just happens to hear his brothers are in Shechem, who, by the way, doesn't choose to kill Joseph, since he does belong to the family that killed all the men in Shechem in the not-too-distant past. And most amazing of all, Joseph, a guy, actually stopped and asked for directions. I mean, can you guys believe that? Anyways, guys, that's the end of this video. Again, if you'd like me to come to your church and speak, or if you have any questions, just email me at godsohman@gmail.com. And I appreciate you guys watching my videos, and I guess I will see you guys next time.